Thank you so much for joining us for our series of virtual in-conversation events. We are incredibly grateful to all of the creatives and artists who shared their time, their wisdom and their experience with us. It's easy to ask in the face of a global pandemic, why do the arts matter? But the truth is that theatre is as old as civilization itself. It's a place where we learn, we explore, and we share our common humanity. It's a pressure valve for society, a safe space in which to explore dangerous ideas. And above all, it's entertaining. At Dark Unicorn Productions, we rely very heavily on the support of our wonderful patrons to continue our work. You can join them and become a patron of the arts yourself by joining our scheme, which starts at just £50 per year to become a rainbow unicorn. Be part of the Dark Unicorn family. Be part of the recovery and the future of theatre. Don't let the lights go out. Become a patron today. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Dark Unicorn in Conversation. The actor Denholm Spurr has been pretty ubiquitous these last few years if you've taken any interest whatsoever in London's burgeoning LGBT plus theatre scene. Whether in the HIV monologues at Shoreditch's Ace Hotel, No Sweat at the Pleasance, or the chemsex monologues at Islington's King's Head, he has been at the forefront of most of the edgier works, holding up a mirror to aspects of particularly urban queer communities. He's also lent his performance skills to Sexual Health Clinic 56 Dean Street for a web series on sexual health for gay men, and has directed the gay fairy tale Happily Ever Pufter for production at a variety of venues. In addition, he is a board games enthusiast, something which he talks about while discussing another side to his career. This interview was recorded at the end of May, before the ending of Denholm's relationship with his then partner. Unfortunately, it's not been possible to eradicate all mentions of that relationship from the footage, and we apologise for any distress this may cause. Denholm, tell us a little bit about your early life, where you came from, and what that was like.
Okay, so I was born in Surrey. Very green, boring green Surrey, and had a very kind of like standard. My parents came from very working class backgrounds, and I but they'd worked hard and they'd earned enough money to kind of move out into own their own house and that kind of existence, but weren't wealthy. And we were living with people in the same areas, people that were very wealthy in some cases. The road right next to mine growing up was full of £1 million houses, basically. So I think that's where I got my ridiculous accent from, because I sound like a posh wanker, but actually, if you speak to the rest of my family, they don't sound like this at all. So yeah, I had a very kind of aspiring working class upbringing, really. And I was the first in my family to go to university. I worked really hard. Fortunately, was naturally quite intelligent, which helped. And then got into a really, really good A-level school, which is called Wilson's. It's one of the best comprehensive A-level schools in the country. And then went to university. So it was kind of like I had very, I'd say, humble upbringings, but there were a lot of kind of outside influences that kind of shaped the person I think I ended up becoming.
And where did theatre and performance first enter your life?
I joined a Sunday school. What was it called? That's annoying. I can't remember what it was called. It was in a place in Stourton in Surrey. And my grandma had done this course as a kind of mental health assistance thing. She struggled a little bit with that. And she's kind of said, oh, I had a really great time, you should do it. And they happened to do a kind of, for younger people who were interested in performing arts as a kind of potential career at some point, they did this kind of Sunday school. And so I joined that, and that was a real kind of excellent first step on the performing arts ladder. Learned tons. I learned loads on that course, and then off the back of that, I joined an amateur society, and there happens to be a ridiculously wealthy amateur society in Chipstead, which is not far from where I grew up, and they've got their own theatre. It's a converted stable. It's basically people that have died and bequeathed all of their belongings to this cute little amateur theatre, and it's just a gold mine. It could easily be a professional space. It's stunning, and you're working with, some of them are kind of people who have acted in the past. Some of them aren't, but are quite good nonetheless, and good directors and that kind of thing. So, and also professional stage managers and all that kind of thing. So that was also a fantastic opportunity in my early life, considering in school I didn't do drama. Like, drama wasn't a subject in my school. So I had all of that was extracurricular. And then I decided, having loved all that side of it, that drama would have to be what I studied at university. So that's kind of the route in, I guess.
And where did you study? Where did you train afterwards?
Exeter. We went to Exeter University and did drama with Spanish because my parents were like, you must get a degree because go to drama school straight off is a waste of time. Not sure I quite agree with them, but I'm glad I got the degree, actually, in hindsight. I think that Exeter is an amazing place to study, especially for drama. It's a really excellent course. And I did 3 years there, and then I did a year in London, kind of doing drama school auditions, and did a few professional gigs in that time, and also amazingly ended up on the Olivier Awards judging panel, which, how that happened, I've got no idea. But so I did all that in a year, and then went to Oxford School of Drama for a year. And when I graduated that, then I was like a fully fledged actor, so to speak.
You've ended up where you are at the moment via a slightly turbulent period, which you've spoken of quite a lot, where you're both presumably attempting to forge some sort of career, but also experiencing homelessness. Do you want to talk about that?
That was a real challenge, actually, because I went to drama school is also I'd kind of ignored. I think part of the reason why I was on a trajectory of success is because all of my attention was on my education. Because I was repressed homosexual, basically, I had girlfriends and that sort of stuff, but I didn't really put any much effort into them. Sad times for them. But it meant that my work was just like everything. And so then at drama school obviously teaches you to kind of get more in touch with who you really are. And that made me explore this kind of part of me that I hadn't really explored ever. Fell in love with a guy, and then my whole world kind of crashed around me because internalized homophobia, my own view of myself, that relationship ended. It was just so much mess. And then I left drama school in probably the worst possible state that you could leave drama school in, really. I think drama schools don't do enough to look after their students sometimes, because they are really taking them apart piece by piece. And I think they have an obligation to make sure they're okay. And I had a psychologist that I had to pay for when I was at drama school. It wasn't provided by the school, and I really needed it, and I needed more, and I needed post drama school kind of guidance, and I didn't get anything. I heard some people even got a phone call from the head of the school, and I didn't get a single thing. And so I think they really let me down there, actually. On top of that, that was also me coming out, and my parents weren't the most liberal in terms of that. They had very conservative values, at least on my dad's side, and my mum's side less conservative, but still the gay thing just, it wasn't really part of their world. And I think then they saw, because of that view, they saw me then immediately, they expected the worst, I think, because my uncle actually had died of AIDS. And I never knew. I was told he was going to die of cancer, but I found out later that he died of AIDS, which I just thought was a complete travesty that I'd never been let in on that. That they there was an opportunity there for me to understand myself a bit better, I think, and I was never let in on that. And also, what a sad time for him as well is that I think that I would have really loved. I didn't know him well, but that could have been an opportunity to do that. And so I think my relationship with my parents just broke down, and because of that, I kind of went off and was like, well, what does this mean being a gay person? I went out into the wide world, and within 2 minutes I was offered drugs, and within 3 minutes I was offered money. And I think that was too tempting and too necessary for me at that time, because I needed something to make me forget about who the kind of nightmare that was going on in my head, and two, the fact that I eventually didn't have somewhere to live, because my relationship with my parents just broke down so much that I couldn't go back. And then with the drugs, I think the whole thing got mixed in together, and it just ended up being a complete breakdown of communication between us. And that's a real shame, because it ended up resulting in 5 years of my life, which were just, I think about it now, and it's just such a mad experience. And it's really interesting, because you talk to me now, and most people think, like, they couldn't even imagine the fact that I was homeless, because I don't look like someone or speak like someone that might have been, but I was. And it was just a really challenging time where I did things that I would never even in a million years think of doing now, because I had to, in order to have a roof over my head.
Of course. And do you think that in the period since that, has it informed your life and work since, or is that something you sort of block?
Without a doubt. I mean, I was determined. I'm quite a political person, but I think that actually that experience has made me more political. I was definitely political before that happened, possibly not in the way that I consider the best way now. I might have been a very different person had that all not happened to me. I've definitely voted Conservative, for example, in 2010 election, whereas you wouldn't find me voting Conservative with a barge pole now. And so I think that not only has it informed my politics, but it also it informed the kind of work that I wanted to do. And I was really interested in telling stories about, because I just thought it was mad that there are so many young, was it 1 in 4 youth homeless is LGBT, 1 in 4, and we only make up 10% of the population. So that's a completely disproportionate amount of people that are LGBT and homeless. And I lifted the lid on this whole world. I was like, this is so wrong. And then on top of that, I then experienced everything to do with the government systems that are in place generally, as opposed to LGBT related, but generally for people that are homeless, and how it just traps them in a circle. And I was like, this needs to change. And so I've not only have I kind of explored more LGBT focused stuff in my work. So I was unfortunately diagnosed with HIV, and so I wanted to create work that, and I think I got HIV not because of lack of information and not knowing what was safe, what the real risks were, because the education in school, because of Section 28, was so terrible. I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for. I had a heterosexual view of what sexual health was, not a homosexual view of what that was. And that didn't help. And so I wanted to do work that kind of explored that, which I'm very fortunate to have done. But also wanted to do work that explored the homeless. And so I've done a lot of work with Cardboard Citizens, who are a homeless theatre company, and had an amazing opportunity to perform on the Barbican stage in the 50th anniversary of Ken Loach's Kathy Come Home, the stage version. Wow. Which was just an amazing experience, and really kind of just lifts the lid on how awful it is that in a country of the kind of wealth that we have in this country, that any individual has to be homeless, because they don't. And you could change it within a month if you had the willpower to do so. So yeah, it has definitely informed my work a lot, and I'm very lucky to have worked with some really inspiring people who are also doing similar work.
Do you consider then your work in theatre to be as much activism as acting, I suppose?
Yeah, I think I also realised that was where my career was asking me to go. It was almost like it was telling me that that's where I needed to be in terms of where the jobs were. I think had the homeless thing and everything else not happened, I think I would have had a very different type of career. I could have got other kind of work. But when you look, like, I see pictures of me back in the homeless days, and I didn't look well. And so you're going to be playing people that don't look well. And also you end up meeting people, the circles you move in, you meet people that are exploring similar issues. And if you're as vocal about it as I am on social media, which I decided was a really important thing to do, because so few people are, even so, if it's 1 in 4 LGBT people that are in the homeless sector, then I think there's clearly so few LGBT people that are brave enough to speak about it. And I don't think that gives me a badge of honor, but I think that it's an important thing. And I have the strength to do that, so I should. And because of that, that's also, people have reached out to me. The last job I did, for example, was called No Sweat, and that was set in a sauna. And it was about people sleeping in saunas for somewhere to stay when they were homeless. And that was written, the writer, Vicky Moran, approached me to interview me about the text, and then said, "Oh, I've written the play. I want you to be in it as well." So I think that the two things are impossibly linked. And I'm very grateful for that, really.
You've undertaken a wide variety of different, not only different roles as an actor, but you act, you direct, you produce, you design. Is there do you have a preference for which mode you operate in, or has that changed as things have gone on?
It really changes, and I think that I miss each one when I'm not doing it, and love each one when I'm doing it. That's the thing, is that I think I'm the best director out of all of them. I think I'm quite a good actor. I don't think I'm the best actor that ever lived. But I think I'm quite a good one. I think I'm a better director than that. I think I have a really good eye for that kind of thing. And unfortunately, directing jobs, I've done some, and I'm really happy ever put it as one of the things I'm proudest of in terms of my directing. But directing is if acting is hard, directing is 10 times as hard, I think, to crack into, because you really have to have had that kind of Oxbridge upbringing to get into it, even more so than acting, I think, because there aren't these drama schools really for directing. They do exist a little bit now, but when I was training, for example, that was not the case. There weren't those kind of opportunities for a director. So I think I love doing all of them, and I'm very lucky that I spend 90% of my working life doing what I love.
Outside, of course, of that, you've got various other strings to it, not least, I see it sitting behind you there, the game that you've designed, which is due to be released in 2022. Do you want to talk us through that?
So this is a very new thing that I 2 years ago, I had a bit of a crisis. It was a crisis, and I was like, what do I do with my life? I'm not sure I'm happy. And so I went traveling to find myself, because, that's what you do. And fortunately, I'd inherited some money from my grandma, who unfortunately passed away. And I was like, well, it's pointless. It wasn't a huge sum. It was just a sum that I was like, well, it's sitting in my bank. It's going to do nothing. I probably would just slowly pick away at it. So I went traveling. I went to Colombia and the Caribbean. And it really worked. Actually, it helped me find myself. And I came back and I was like, I need a new hobby. I think because my work, acting, was my hobby, right? And then when it comes to your job, it's like, well, what's your hobby anymore? And I think it's important that we have hobbies as human beings that kind of expand our minds in ways that we can't otherwise see. And so I came back and was like, what else do you really like doing? And board games. I just love playing board games. I've always loved it as a kid. And so I was like, well, New Year's resolution, make one. How about you make a board game? And so I did. And then I found out on Meetup, there was these playtest groups that people go to in London. And so I went along, took my game along to this group, and they savaged it, tore it apart. I was like, this is awful, this is awful. But I think within all that, I realized that I had a kind of natural ability at the game design aspect. And that I felt the challenge of something to get better at it. I felt there was opportunities to get better at it. And it's also just an amazingly friendly, open, welcoming community that I was just captivated by it. So off the back of that, I just kind of kept kind of exploring new ideas. And then I met my partner, Kane, who worked on cruise ships. Actually, when I first spoke to him on Facebook, we met on Facebook, if you can believe it. And we were talking for 6 months on Facebook before we actually met in person, because he was on a cruise ship traveling the world. Then he came back to the UK. We kind of had a romantic whirlwind 3-month relationship before he had to go off again. But we then had a long distance relationship. And because he was so far away, I wanted something that would remind me of him and make me feel close to him. And a game about cruises was what did that. So the game has been inspired by my relationship with my partner. And also I had the fortune of a bit later in Kane's contract, I went out onto the ship with the game. So it's been played on the ship with actual real life passengers, which is great. So it's just a game about cruising around the Caribbean, picking up guests and taking them on the cruise of a lifetime, basically. Lots of fun, lighthearted, but strategic and fun and interesting at the same time. But then I thought, well, let's see if I can do something with it, because that's always my way. Like I say, hobbies becoming job, clearly a bit of a problem of mine. And so I sent it off to publishers, and amazingly, loads of them were interested. They were like, "This is great," and I signed the game a month ago with Talon Strike Studios, who are an American-based publisher, and they will launch it out in 2022. So yeah. So between now and then, I've got lots of kind of development and playtesting to do of it. So if anybody wants to playtest, dicecruise.com, get in touch. So yeah.
I suppose this is a two-part thing, really. I mean, how have you been getting through lockdown? And also, what sort of, do you have a sense for what the future might be post-COVID for the arts and for theatre particularly? Or do you have a hope for what that future might be?
I have a hope for one. The hopeful one I don't think is realistic. It's weird for me. So lockdown, I've had ups and downs, but on the whole, I think I've been fine. I've worked from home a lot, like as a producer. When I was producing Happily Ever Pufter, for a large part of that tour, it was in Australia, and so I wasn't there. And so you had got to do that remotely from home. And generally speaking, I've done a lot of work from home over the last 5 years of my career, so I'm used to it. So the only thing was I can't go out at all, and I am quite a kind of outdoorsy person on the whole. So that took I had a bit of ups and downs, and I've had some moments where I just kind of end up just being like, I just need to zone out and sit in bed all day long. But obviously I had a whole lot of things in the pipeline. I had Happily Ever Pufter was doing the rest of its international tour. It was returning to London, and it was doing a UK tour, and then doing Edinburgh, then go to Prague and a few other, Belgium, and it just had loads of things in the diary for that, and that's all gone. And so that was a whole year's worth of work that evaporated in a day, basically. So that was terrifying financially, and unfortunately, again, the government's self-employed thing hasn't. My partner and I haven't qualified for it because there's so many holes in it still. So financially, it's been a bit of a challenge, to be honest. And I unfortunately don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel. Sorry to be depressing about that, but I think the reality is that the industry is fucked. At least for the time being. I don't see a safe version of the industry that enables it to open, and that we have to adapt. Basically, is what we have to do. We have to find new ways of telling our stories, and that probably means a shift out of live theatre, at least live theatre that isn't in open spaces. I think open spaces live theatre could be a new, like there could be a big boom of that, and that would be interesting how that works. And using spaces that are for other things, so like car parks and those kind of things. I think cinemas, for example, might do that a lot. Is the return of the car park cinema. You might see that kind of thing more. But yeah, I think I feel quite lucky that the Dice Cruise publishing deal came when it did, because it came basically at the start of lockdown, and so it's given me a completely different trajectory for the time being to focus on. I'm also about to help out with the graphics on a new digital drag escape room, which called Drag Me Out of Here, which is lots of fun. So that's I'm going to be kind of getting involved with over the next few months. So that's another thing performatively that I'm kind of able to, and there'll be live presenters, but it's all done via Zoom. So I think we're going to have to explore more options like that. How that does it, and we might see the whole theatre world turned on its head, which in some ways is a good thing, because I think working in the board game world, I've seen how non-elitist that is, and that was a stark contrast to the acting world, which is so elitist. I think that it might go some way to undo some of that, which I hope that's a silver lining, if you ask me, is that I hope that does happen.
I think it'll certainly be an interesting 6 to 12 months, really, seeing how it goes. I agree with an awful lot of what you said about that. I think that's it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. You have a wide range of supporters for your work, but there is one charity in particular that you've mentioned to me previously, which has been very supportive of the work you're producing. Do you want to talk about that?
So this is Ones with Oasis, who are just the most beautiful charity. They are an HIV support charity based in South London. They've got about, they're going to criticize me for getting this wrong, but I'm going to go for eight stores. Yeah, maybe more. Which are just great. And you go in there and you can find the most wonderful things if you're just interested in finding stuff in charity. It's a real eclectic mix of stuff, but not your traditional charity shops, basically. They've got some really great stuff in some of them. But the work that they do, and also the thing is, by buying something, you're funding the work they do, which is supporting not only HIV-related stuff, but artistic projects which help increase the visibility and fight stigma for HIV. And I've done quite a bit of work that does that. So I've done the first season of The Grass is Always Grinder, which was the Dean Street web series, 10 million views on YouTube, madness. That was part funded by Ones with Oasis, the first season, which is fantastic. And then Happily Ever Pufta also has an HIV kind of stigma reducing message, and they've helped fund that as well. And generally, just if I need anything, like theatre-wise, it's great to know if I needed a prop, and I was like, God, and where can I get that prop from? They probably have something that works, and they're really great at just lending it to me. Which, when you're a kind of struggling creative that's being a director or producer is hard work if you haven't got the financial kind of backing, which I just don't have. So the support of Ones with Oasis has been invaluable. And Richard Aldridge, who is kind of my main port of contact there, is just an absolute diamond. So yeah.
Well, there will be more information for that down below as well in the description on whatever platform you're watching this on. One of the people who 2012 has spirited away was James Lipton, who was the presenter and founder of the Inside the Actors Studio broadcast and non-credit class, actually, as it was. He liked to finish off the main part of his interviews with 10 sort of rapid-fire questions, which he had taken from elsewhere. It originally goes back to Proust, although I don't think Proust asked all of these. So I'm just going to rattle through those and see what you think. What's your favourite word?
Oh, indefatigable.
And your least favourite word?
Moist.
This question you can take whatever way you like. What turns you on?
Oh, politics, is that really really boring?
No, that's okay.
Somebody with a political, strong political mind, I think.
And what turns you off?
God, this quickfire thing's not working out too good, is it? Turns me off. Brussels sprouts.
What sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love? The sound of the violin is just stunning.
And what sound or noise do you hate?
The sound of the birds outside my window in the morning.
What's your favourite swear word?
I think probably fuck.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would love to be a politician, actually, which probably is insanity at the moment. But yeah, I would. I think I would love to represent and help make a difference in the world in some way. And if that was a politician or human rights lawyer or something like that, that'd be great.
And what profession would you absolutely not want to do?
I don't think there's many. I'd be interested in try. I don't think I'd want to be. I don't really want to work in supermarkets. Really, I mean, needs must, right? But yeah, I feel much pity for the key workers which are working in supermarkets right now, because it's horrible work and you have to do it, and everyone else is sitting on there doing fuck all. So, yeah.
The last question, which just takes out any of your whatever your personal beliefs may or may not be on the topic, but if it were to transpire that heaven existed, what would you want to hear said to you when you arrive?
What would I want to hear said to me? Ooh. We're having a party. Probably.
Well, that answers the questions I had, but we've had a few sent in. If you don't mind taking a few short ones here. Chloe, who has sent in a question from Berlin, is there a typically female role in theatre that you're itching to play?
That's a good question. Who there is, and who is it? I have to remember. It's a Shakespeare. I guess I would love to play Lady M. That would be fun.
And is there, that Mark from Essex has asked, is there a show that most people adore that you can't stand?
Most musicals, sadly. But yeah, one specifically, I'm not the biggest Webber fan. Sorry, Webber, my lord.
He has a remarkably thick skin. Sean in Brighton has asked, what has been your favourite role to date?
Favourite? So I had the pleasure of playing Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet, and it was an immersive production on an island in the Thames. And it was just exactly, I had the best relationship with the director, and it was a great team, and I was able to explore the role and understand in a way that I think just nailed it, and that was just a really shining moment, I think, for me in my career.
Timothy in Cardiff has said, as a young director myself, I've been told that asking questions of your actors and the text is key. Aside from anything specific to that play, what do you think is the most important question an actor can be asked in the rehearsal process?
Oh, okay. So I would say that how does that make you feel, and what are you going to do about it? Those two questions are connected, I think. Is that really understanding how something makes you feel and what you're going to do about it is, I think, a really important questions, plural, to know.
And finally, Barry in North London says, what are you most proud of in both your professional and your personal life?
Most proud of? Oh, I just feel so lucky to have so many things that I'm proud of. I mean, I'm super proud of this. But I think I'm most proud of my friendships, actually. I mean, that sounds like a shit answer because I'm ignoring all work. But I've got some really wonderful friends, and I'm most proud of them.
Denholm Spurr, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, thank you.